Cleveland probably isn't the first place you think of when you hear waterfront living. I know myself, I think of something that's secluded in the woods that sits on a lake, or maybe at least has a few cabins nearby. But believe it or not, here in Cleveland on Lake Erie, we have some amazing public spaces that everyone's able to use. We also have some amazing real estate that is for sale that if you have the means, you have the availability to own yourself. Now, Cleveland is located right on this massive body of water that is called Lake Erie, and it's a part of the 5 Great Lakes. And those are located on the northern part of the United States and the southern part of Canada. And Lake Erie's name is fitting because it's kind of scary to think about what you might find in there, but it is still a massive landmark, and it is definitely worth seeing for anyone who is in the area traveling here, or if you live here, it's a great place to go just hang out and relax. Now, Lake Erie is the 4th largest of the 5 Great Lakes for surface area, and it only goes about 210 feet deep at its deepest point, which makes it the only Great Lake whose deepest point is above sea level. Now, having grown up in the Cleveland area, something that I didn't really know was that this body of water is actually something that people come to visit because it is not something that everyone has available to them where they live. Sure, most people in the United States probably have some sort of lake nearby, however, it is not on the massive scale that Lake Erie is. Lake Erie spans almost the whole width of Ohio. It goes over into Pennsylvania and New York and all the way up into Canada. So looking at it while you're just standing on the shoreline, it almost looks like it's actually an ocean. It's not a still standing body of water. It has waves that are coming in, and depending on where you're standing, it almost looks like it's just never ending. Now, with such a massive body of water available so close by, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for just different shipments and use of the water itself. But as far as the land that borders it goes, you're going to have some spectacular places to go out, whether it be a park or just simply a walking path that goes alongside the lake, but you're also going to have some prime real estate that is available to buy as well. Now, within these different sections of land, you are going to have some great sounds and some beautiful views. Me personally, I love the sound of the waves coming in and crashing on the rocks or just even hitting the shore. It's just one of those sounds that are incredibly soothing, and it's hard to not be relaxed when you're nearby. In my really young years, I really didn't spend any time hanging out by Lake Erie, but as I got older and I could drive, I started to go out there more and more. Now, I lived in Parma, Ohio, and it was probably like a 25-minute drive or so to get over to the different beaches over in Bay Village, Lakewood, and Cleveland. But we would go there during the summer and play soccer on the beach, hang out by the water, and realistically, a lot of the time we would just sit around and BS and just be teenagers. But when I say beaches, I don't want you to think that this is some crazy tourist attraction. These beaches are not going to compare anything to something like you would find in Florida or California that are sitting on the oceans themselves. But the beaches that are available here do suffice for having such a long drive to get to such massive attractions like the ones that I mentioned in the different states. Now, the beach that I spent the most time at growing up was Huntington Beach over in Bay Village, Ohio, and there it is a spectacular spot to go and hang out. Up top, you're going to have a playground that they just constructed for kids to play on. There's a walking path that overlooks the beach and also the lake. There's a little hut that you can get some ice cream and food at, and if you work your way down the stairs behind that hut, that is where you're going to find the beach access. Now, this beach is not the biggest one there is in this area, so when there are a lot of people here, it gets pretty crowded quickly. However, as far as I can remember, there was never an overwhelming amount of people there, so it is a solid one to go hang out at, but just be ready on a nicer day where you're not going to have that whole thing to yourself. Now, the sand on this beach isn't the softest sand that you're going to get because there are rocks and different little shells that have broken up, so having some sort of sandals or flip-flops is probably a good idea if you're going to this one. You have the ability to go out into the water and swim. There is a lifeguard that does hang out, but they're not always there. And like any other public swimming place, you're probably going to want to follow the rules that are posted because it can be incredibly dangerous to swim in just with the currents that are rushing in. Now, the next beach that I'm going to be talking about is going to be Edgewater Beach, and over there that is going to be your most populated beach, but it is also a lot bigger than Huntington Beach, and that is the more mainstream one that people are going to be going to just because when you type in beaches in Cleveland, that is the first one that pops up. And this one is particularly nice because it is incredibly deep as far as the shoreline goes, but again, you also have the walking paths that walk nearby it. You have a really cool view of downtown Cleveland, and then you also have some grassy areas that are available for public use as well if you want to have your dogs out there, play frisbee in the park or whatever it may be that you're interested in. And sometimes at these beaches, if the waves are big enough, you can catch people surfing, which when I was there on this particular day, someone was actually hanging out waiting for some waves to come in, and they weren't particularly big, but I'm guessing they fall under the category as good enough for this person to get their fix of surfing. Now, another cool part about Edgewater Beach is that it has the this upper deck area where you can go and have some get-togethers, whether it be social events or family get-togethers. There's a bar up there, there's a fireplace, and there's a ton of tables with just a bunch of different space for everyone to get together and mingle and just really take in their surroundings and enjoy it. The other thing that Edgewater offers that some of the other beaches in the area don't is that you can have the ability to go out and rent some different kayaks or paddle boards. That way you're not just stuck sitting on the beach or swimming. You can actually go out on the water without having to own the supplies yourself. Now moving into the third beach that we're going to be going over, that is going to be your most low-key beach, and that is just around the corner from Edgewater Beach, and this one is called Perkins Beach. Now if you type it in on Google, it's probably going to take you to Edgewater, so you're going to want to scroll east a little bit, and that will take you to the actual Perkins Beach. But this is the smallest of all of them. There's no walking path nearby. It's a really shallow area to where you can actually hang out without being in the water, and this beach is not sand. It's mainly rocks and driftwood, a little bit of sand, but this is one of those beaches that you're going to want to wear shoes at. Now the reason I like this beach, besides the fact that it is so secluded and not too many people go here, is the fact that you can do something called sea glass hunting, and it was introduced to me by my wife, who really loves going to this spot and just sifting through the rock and looking for glass that has been broken out at sea, and then it kind of like withers away and it turns into something almost like a pebble, where it's very smooth glass, it's faded, and it just looks really cool to showcase. Now there are people out there who collect it to sell, but in my household it's used as decor, and I've seen it used in plenty of different ways. And one of the most interesting ones that I've seen was actually ones that were big enough people used as cabinet pools for their house and their kitchen. So you can get creative with the sea glass that you find, but it is just something fun to do, and it doesn't take a whole lot of energy to do. Plus you get to hang out by the water, and if you're like me and you can't really sit still and you need something to do, this is a great option for you. Now as we start to move into the real estate that is available around the lake, this is where I am going to shine, because I am actually a realtor in the greater Cleveland area. So if you're starting to think about moving this way, feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact info is down below. But as far as the houses that surround the beaches, you're probably going to be paying a pretty penny if you want to be closer to that area. So what I mean is, if you're in Bay Village, Rocky River, or Avon, you're probably going to be spending a pretty high amount, definitely above $250,000. More than likely, you're probably going to be in the $400 to $500 range. And that's not going to be beachfront living. That's going to have fast access within 5 to 10 minutes of a beach or walkway or park. If you're wanting something that is a little bit cheaper, you can go out to Elyria, Lorraine, or Amherst, and those spots are going to keep you within that 10-minute drive, and you're going to have a lot lower price point. But on the flip side of that, you're going to be a lot further away from Cleveland than if you were in the Rocky River or Avon area. If you want the lake to be in your backyard, you're probably going to be in that $1 million to $10 million range, depending on the house size. Lake Road stretches all the way down the length of Lake Erie, and it goes through the different cities, and on that road is where you're going to find the houses that have Lake Erie in their backyard. And there's pretty much no more lots available. Everything's been built up for the most part, especially the closer you get to Cleveland. Some people are buying older houses and knocking them down and building new ones, but the majority of the houses that are located there already are pretty extravagant, in all honesty. So if you're in the area, definitely take a drive down that road, because it is amazing. You get to see some sites that you really wouldn't see anywhere in the suburbs. So these houses that are located along Lake Erie are probably going to be pretty comparable to something else that you could buy on a beach in a different state. If you go to some of the states or cities that are more low-key, that border the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean, you're probably going to be able to find something very similar to what you would pay to live on Lake Erie up here. However, if you want to live in a very high key area that's in California or Florida, you're probably not going to be able to find the same house that you would in Cleveland comparatively to those nicer climates. So I'm going to open up Zillow and let's see if we can find something that's for sale on Lake Erie and compare it to something that is for sale in those higher key areas, and maybe one more that is for sale in, say, something like North Carolina. So I'm going to pick up my phone here and open up Zillow, and let's see if we can find something on Lake Erie. So we're going to zoom out, pull up our filters, make sure there's nothing on here. I don't think there is. So let's see what we got here. We got 6.5 million on Lake Erie. Now this house is massive. You got 4 beds, 7 baths. It doesn't even have a mention of square feet, so it's got to be 10,000 is what I would bet. Probably near that. So this house is just gorgeous. It's got the 20-foot ceilings. It's got chef's kitchen, all overlooking Lake Erie. Everything's updated. Bedroom full of windows, bathroom full of windows. It's just pristine. So the nice part about these houses is that they're absolutely massive, but you also do not have the worry of flooding, because this house is probably sitting on a cliff that is 50 feet above the lake itself. so you don't actually have access down to it. Let's check out this 3.5 million. This one's a little outdated. Looks like it's been lived in, but I mean, it's not in bad condition by any means. Let's see if we can find some outdoor areas. So you got a little patio on the back there. There's the backyard, also overlooking the lake. Looks like they have some running water on the property too. Yeah, so this is what I mean by being up on a 50-foot cliff. Like, you're way above any chance of this lake flooding you. See, 1.5 million, that's not on the lake. I don't really care about that. So the ones bordering the lake, it looks like you've got 700 to 800, 400 in there. What does the 400 house look like? So a pretty regular house, 3,000 square feet for 455. Not bad. This is going to be condos and such. Same thing with that. We got a new construction condo. $550, that's gonna be another condo, I think. Yeah, Bay Village. So right now there's nothing super cheap for sale, but you can find older houses in this area that will land you around that million mark, that are a little bit smaller. You don't have to get that 6,000 to 10,000 square feet. It is doable. It's just few and far between when they do pop up. So let's see what we got in a southern state. Let's try Florida, see what it costs to live on the water there. Honestly, I don't know anything about Florida, so I might just be shooting myself in the foot trying to search here. So you got 2.65 million, 4,000 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, and it's actually falling pretty close in line to what you can get in Cleveland. It's a little outdated, but there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of the houses in Florida are going to be outdated just because of when they were built, but you still got your vaulted ceilings, second floor, a lot of overlooking the water, decent cabinets in the kitchen, vaulted ceiling with the overlook for the master bedroom, nice bathroom. But the nice part about this one is it has a dock that is on it, so you have access to the water right off of your porch. But I guess with that comes the possibility of flooding, so you have that to worry about if you are in this area. But the houses that are closer to Cleveland, say in like Bay Village or Westlake, they seem to be closer to the water as far as the height goes, so some of them are going to have that dock that has access to the water itself. Now let's take a look at something, say in North Carolina, where it is going to be on the same body of water, just a lot further north in the United States, and something that might be a little bit more low-key and not a destination. See if we can get a better price than Cleveland. So we're gonna zoom out here, go way up. Still in Florida, Savannah, Charleston. I don't know anything about these areas, so bear with me while I'm looking. What's 275K? This looks like it might be in a development. Yeah, so you're not even on the water on this one. Looks like this one might be on the water for 500. I don't know how far away this is from the different cities and stuff, but like at least in Cleveland, you have a lot of stuff that's nearby. Not really seeing a beach off of this one, but you have a dock that is pretty high up. So I don't know if you could launch a boat out of that or not. I honestly doubt it, but who knows? So that might not be an ideal one, and it's not a very big house, but for $459, have a lake house that you can go visit. All right, so here we go. We got one that's in Adelet that is a new build for $1 million, 2,600 square feet. Not the biggest, but it is pretty solid size for having that water access. Now you have a pretty great overlook, I'd say, as far as what you get to view. Straight water, similar to what you would find on Lake Erie. You can't see any land past it, obviously, because this is the Atlantic Ocean. Overall, a really nice house. So like I said, if you go to some of these more low-key areas, you might sacrifice not having all of the amenities nearby, but you're still going to have that nice secluded feeling when you're on vacation, if you do buy a vacation home there, or if you're gonna live in it permanently. But at least in Cleveland, Ohio, if you are buying something that is on Lake Erie, you are going to have fast access to all the trendy neighborhoods that are nearby, all while still having that view for a pretty solid price, in my opinion. Now, it might not be as big of a savings as I was totally expecting, but it is still probably a little bit cheaper than living somewhere in Florida, and you still get those sweet views with a really nice house as well. So I hope this helped put into perspective the different styles of living you can get here. It's pretty neat that you have the ability to live in the suburbs and have a more regular life. If you wanted to, you could live closer to the lake and have all of that beach life, where some of these houses feel like you're actually on a lake house and you get that cottage feeling when you walk in. And if you go a little bit south or west, you have the ability to get some rural areas to live in that makes it feel like you're living on a farm. So this part of Ohio is actually pretty solid as far as the options that are available for the people that live here. So like I said, if you're thinking about moving to this area, feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact info is down in the description. And if you find yourself down there checking out my other social media or trying to reach out to me, before you go, click that like button and subscribe, because it's going to keep you up to date with everything that's happening in the greater Cleveland area. I try to give you a pretty good idea of what it's like living here. So with all of that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.